Happy Wednesday. I hope you all had a wonderful Halloween and are working on finishing out the week strong. I know we're all very tired, start of holiday season, so buckle in. Let me know if you already have your tree up, if you're getting it up. I always think that that's something that's kind of fun. Ours is supposed to come today. We'll see. I'm excited to get it up. Normally, I wait until Black Friday. That's my thing because I really don't like Black Friday shopping. I would rather pay more money to avoid the chaos. So that's my day to decorate. But for some reason this year, I think it's just a weird empty corner in my living room, but I really want to get my tree up. So we're going to do it early this year. Let me know when you do yours. It's weirdly really interesting to me, people's holiday traditions. So, as promised, we're going to be going through more real estate jargon. I want to focus on things that come up in contracts that if you don't work in this, you probably don't know, just so you can have an idea of what these things are ahead of time. The market is a little more balanced now, so usually, we're taking more time to talk through things. Really, I like to do a buyer's consultation anyway, so you know what all this is. But just in case you end up with some questions, and go through some stuff quickly so you know what's coming. Olivia's here. Sorry, I just got super distracted with her waking up there. So the biggest ones I see that people are not familiar with are probably earnest money is the thing people most often have never heard of. So when you buy a house, there are a number of expenses that come into play. So most people are familiar that you're going to most of the time need a down payment. There are down payment assistance programs that will make it to where you're basically 100% financed and you don't have to bring anything to the table. Most of the time, though, you're going to have a down payment, and that is really no different than a down payment on a car. It's just a chunk of money you bring up front to show that you can do the financing, and they finance the rest. From there, you're going to also have closing costs. Closing costs are another thing that most people don't know about as often, but it's just the fees that you pay for the services of closing. So those are going to be any lender fees, title origination fees, your title policies. So if you have a mortgage, your financed home, both yourself and your lender are going to get a title policy through the title insurance company. And that protects to ensure that, they've done a full title search. There are no liens against the property. And should anything happen where someone comes forward and tries to claim any interest in the property, then they're handling that for you. So a title company is not just someone who closes homes. They supply the title insurance, and that's why they do the closings, because then they can sell the title policies. So those all go into your closing costs. Commission is separate. Commission is what your real estate agent makes. If you don't know, you will now that I don't make a single dime until closing. All of the expenses that go into marketing a property, signs, marketing my business, gas, all that good stuff, just complete negatives until we close on a property. So then from there, commission is paid out. Most of the time, the seller pays the listing agent, and then that is split between the listing agent and the buyer's agent. Sometimes it's a little bit different. Most of the time, that's how it works out in practicality. It's not a requirement for it to go that way, but that's still generally what we're seeing in our market. Once you go under contract, that's when earnest money comes into play. So earnest money is basically what I explained as is your skin in the game, right? So when you go under contract, before you close, what you're really doing is you're asking the seller to take the home off the market and hold it for you until you can determine that you want to buy it through inspections and that you can buy it through finishing your financing. So in order to make it worthwhile, there's a thing called earnest money. And that is just showing that you have skin in the game. You're a serious buyer. You intend to purchase the property and you're not just going to change your mind. It varies by state. So again, I primarily do Tennessee and Georgia. I also do Alabama, but most of the time it's Tennessee and Georgia. So in Tennessee, well, really just to simplify it, earnest money you pay in, and should everything go according to plan, it's applied to the money that you bring to closing. If you are a super lucky, unique case where it's 100% financed, and your closing costs are being paid by the seller, which we're starting to see more of again, just say you don't have to bring any money to closing, you'd get that check back then it works kind of like a deposit. But most of the time it's just applied to the money you bring at closing. So say you had to bring $20,000 to closing, you had a $5,000 in earnest money. Well, now you're bringing $15,000 because that $5,000 is already accounted for. That's if everything goes according to plan, which it usually does. But on the off chance you don't close, what happens to that money? It depends. So if you are terminating the contract for something that is written as a contingency in the contract, then you'd get that money back. If you just wake up one day and decide you don't want the house, then the seller gets to keep that money. And that's the whole point of doing it, is just so that they have that protection. Now in Tennessee, you have an inspection period and a resolution period. Inspection period is your time to have all of your inspections done. And then within that period, you have to send the seller a list of anything that you would like repaired, if you have any repair or replacement requests. Once that is sent, then that starts your resolution period. Or if your inspection period ends, then you ran out of time. But then when your resolution period starts, that's your time to come to a resolution, as the name would suggest. So it's the time for getting quotes on how much the work will do, going back and forth on what the seller's willing to repair or replace and what they're not, and if you're willing to accept that, and what you guys can do to come to an agreement. If you don't come to an agreement, then you would terminate the contract. If you do come to an agreement, then from there you move on to your appraisal. Appraisal is, I'm so sorry, I don't know why my phone is crazy tonight. But appraisal is the bank assuring that their risk is safe. So they have a third party person, a licensed appraiser, come out and assess what they consider the value of the property to be. Now, there are standards that they go by, but it is still a little bit subjective. So it does not, market value and appraisal value are not necessarily the same. So market value is what your home would sell for, or what buyers are willing to pay for the house in the typical market. So that does take into account cash purchases as well. Sometimes it's not necessarily what it would appraise for. Appraisal is basically what a bank's willing to loan on it. Normally they run very similarly, because both of them are looking at recent closed sales to determine what the price is. The difference is if I come in and say, let's just go back a year or two when things were super crazy, people were paying way over appraisal. Well, I can go back and look at comps and look at active listings as well as the sold ones and say, hey, I really think this home, based on the comps, is going to appraise for around $300,000. However, you're the only home like it in this neighborhood that a lot of people are looking in, and inventory is really low, and there's a ton of buyers in this price point. And I really think it would sell for more like $325,000. Well, and that's a conversation I was having all the time, because what buyers are willing to pay for it isn't necessarily what I can support if an appraisal comes back low. So I have to be able to have actual data to send to the appraiser and say, hey, I think that it actually should be higher. Can we look at this again? If we look out and get something way super high, they're going to have to pay cash or we're going to come down in price. It just is what it is. So those two things are different. Keep that in mind. But then, you do your appraisal. Your appraisal includes an appraisal inspection. And that's going to vary depending on your loan type. We can get into that more as well. If you have questions on what passes, what doesn't, basic rule of thumb is if you're a conventional loan, they're still looking for health and safety standards. So if you can see the dirt on the ground through your floor, not going to go conventional. If you can see the sky through the roof, not going to go conventional. It won't pass. If there's no working bathroom or kitchen finished, not going to go. You can't just buy anything financed. FHA, VA, USDA, any government-backed loan type, it's going to be a little bit pickier. So they are also looking for things that, some of us would consider cosmetic, like peeling paint or exposed subflooring, things like that. So if you are curious about what those are entirely, we can go through a full list of them, but that gets really, really long, so we'll save that. So appraisal. Another one people don't understand often is escrow. And this, I think, is partially our fault because it can be used differently depending on what region you're in and just context. So, y'all, I really need to go to bed tonight. I'm so sorry. I'm exhausted. We were talking about, do you really see how my mind just went blank right there? Track with me, I promise. Normally my brain is functioning. I don't know what is going on today, but escrow, right? So escrow, in terms of your escrow account, is money that is set aside. It's basically a savings account that's forced. So when you pay your mortgage payment, you are paying your principal and interest on your mortgage. Principal goes towards your balance. Interest is the interest you're paying because they're lending you money, so they get to make a profit. But in addition to the principal and interest, you also pay your property taxes and your home insurance, or sometimes called hazard insurance, through your escrow account. So when you make that payment, all of that money is going in. So the money that is for taxes and insurance is separated out and put into an escrow account because those are things that are paid annually rather than monthly. So every time you make your mortgage payment, a portion of that goes into your escrow account and it accrues for the duration of the year. And then at the end of the year, your mortgage company is going to pay your property taxes and your home or hazard insurance on your behalf out of that escrow account. One of the documents you sign at closing is authorizing their ability to do so. So generally when I hear escrow, that's what I think of. However, if you see a house that's marked in escrow, that's different. in escrow is the same thing as being under contract. And that just means that someone has a contract on the home to purchase it. Now, because of things like Zillow and Realtor.com, you guys get a little peek into just a very small portion of what the MLS provides to agents. So with that, you may see some terms you're not familiar with as well. It might not say under contract. It may instead say contingent or pending. Now, the information in the MLS is only as good as the agent who puts it in, which is frustrating, but keep that in mind. Technically, contingent and pending are different. Pending means there's a pending contract on the home with no contingencies. So that's basically a cash purchase, no inspection, no appraisal. They're just waiting to close for the title search to be back, and then they're closing. It can also be pending once they're through the contingencies. So if they're through inspection and appraisals, then it can be switched to pending. Contingent means it's under contract, but there are contingencies. So most of the time it is for both inspection and appraisal and financing. So that just means, if inspection comes back horrible, or the buyer's financing falls through, those are contingencies that they have in the contract to not default on the contract. However, a lot of the times you'll see those interchangeable just because not every agent is trained on the fact that they are, in fact, different. But contingent, pending, under contract, all of those mean it's under contract. You can sometimes still view it for a backup contract, but unless something happens to the contract that's currently on the home, that house is no longer available. Other things are, trying to think of questions I get often. There's a whole lot more on the commercial side, but right now we're just talking about residential. I want to say those are the main ones. So if you guys think of any other terms you've heard that you're just like, I don't know what that means, put it in the chat and I will address it. I know I'm saying that late now, so it'll probably just be in comments later. Or if you want to send me a message, give me a call. We can go through some more. I really need to make like a little cheat sheet on this. And I think I have one started in my first time homebuyer packet. So goodness. A sleepy mom day today. If you guys want to donate coffee, I am always happy to take it. Who else is sleepy tonight? Show of hands. It was Halloween. Parents are tired. But I love you all. I hope this has been helpful. There are probably words I'm not thinking of right now. So if you think of them, let me know. Contingencies, I know I've addressed it somewhat, but a contingency is just basically something in the contract that would let you back out of it for that specific reason. But have a great Wednesday night. I will see you next week. I will hopefully be less tired and a little more on point. In the meantime, if you don't mind my rambling, you can always ask me questions whenever, and I will word vomit out what's in my brain as I have done tonight. But I look forward to helping you guys. If you have any questions with buying, selling, investing, getting into real estate, switching brokerages, training, coaching, I do all of it, plus a bunch of kids. So hence exhaustion. But I really love what I do. I love that you guys keep coming back and watching my videos. And I look forward to finding something really interesting to go over next week, because right now I have gone through my list. If you have suggestions, let me know. I always want to continue to bring value and answer things that are on your mind, not just what pops into mind to share. So